Today, I want to share with you something that, as I reflect back on my life, has probably been the biggest contributor to both my successes and my failures. As I sit here for so long, I've been battling with weight loss. Now, if you see me in the gym, you'll probably say, not to brag, but probably one or two of the most fit people in the gym. That's because I've been exercising regularly for 10 years, did bodybuilding. But have you ever felt like although you're doing good, you're not great? Like although you're seeing results, you're not seeing all of the results. And even worse than that, deep down inside, you know that there is another level to the game that you could be playing. That's kind of how I felt at different parts of my journey, where I, from the outside looking in, was living a life that looked good, but on the inside, it felt far from good. And specifically with weight loss, I mean, that is my biggest vice. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do any of that stuff. Maybe I'll have a margarita or a sangria every now and again, but that's about as far as I will go. But food, man, you give me that cheesecake. Ooh. You give me that milkshake. Oh my, you should see me driving past Chick-fil-A. Man, I start salivating like I look like a dog. I just honestly like borderline obsessed with food. And it's funny because you have no idea how many times over the course of my life I said, this time I'm going to do it. I'm going to diet. I'm going to stick with it. And I'm going to do it. Week goes by. I got it. Good. 2 weeks goes by. I quit. Countless times in my life that has happened. And you know what's funny about that is two things. Number one, I was depending upon willpower to get me to the finish line. In other words, I was going to, whenever things got tough, I'm going to will my way through it. I'm just going to push. I'm going to grind through it, and I'm going to lose the weight, and I'm going to get healthy, and I'm going to get the muscles, and I'm going to do all of these things. Just use my willpower, because when it gets tough, I just have to push. That's one thing that I noticed. And what was funny about that is it seemed like eventually willpower just wasn't enough. After a while of being surrounded by bad food and cake over here or somebody eating bad around me, I caved in. Driving past the Chick-fil-A, I caved in. Got my cookies and cream milkshake. Oh boy, I tried a strawberry milkshake from there recently, about 2 months ago. Don't even get me started. But willpower at some point was not enough. But here's the other thing. Starting and then stopping. Starting and then stopping. Starting and then stopping. That is the worst thing that we can ever do to ourselves. To never complete that which we start. But even more importantly, oftentimes we want to make these identity shifts. I want to lose weight. Why? Because I want to become a more confident person. I want to, insert whatever it is for you. But here's the best or the worst part about it, or the best part. Every time you stop and you give up, you're reinforcing the person that you used to be. And you're simultaneously moving away from the person that you want to be. So number one, willpower isn't enough. And number two, when we quit and give up on the things that we tell ourselves we're going to do, we reinforce the person that we do not want to be while running away from the person that we know that we should be. The person that God created us to be. And then there comes that voice that haunts you when you sleep at night, or you try to sleep at night. Sounds something like this. Devin, you gave up again. Devin, you know that there is more to you than what you are currently showing the world and currently showing yourself. Devin, you're letting those around you down. Devin, your weakness is their way out. Devin, you're a failure. Devin, you're a quitter. These are all thoughts that have haunted me in my life. Devin, nobody's going to accept you. And these were all thoughts that manifested themselves after I quit on myself. After I quit on those promises of this time is the time that I'm going to lose weight, and then I ate or drank the milkshake 2 weeks later. Damn it, I knew I couldn't do it. Reinforce the behavior, reinforce the identity of the person that I've always been all my life. So the first thing that I need everyone here and myself, because this is a reminder to me today, first and foremost, if willpower isn't enough, then what is? I'm reading a really great book right now. It's called Willpower Doesn't Work by Darren Hardy. And if willpower isn't the answer, what is? It is environment. Environment is the answer. And James Clear talks about this in Atomic Habits, which I'm listening to on Audible at the moment. Great book, my first time ever listening to it. And as I reflect on my journey in terms of my health and my obsession, I will call it that, even maybe an addiction to food, it stems from my environment. I grew up in an environment where unhealthy foods were worshiped, praised. Let's go get the burger and the fries. Let's go to McDonald's. Let's go out to eat. And that was what was normal in my family. I grew up with my mother. She was not able to cook for us. She has many physical ailments that stop her from being able to stand at the stove and cook and do all of these things for us. So my dad and my family, we always would just go out to eat. That was the only obvious answer. And when I would go out to eat, we would go to the diner, we would go to the steakhouse, and I would get all of these just amazing, quote unquote, amazing meals. But what I didn't understand at the time was that I was placing such a high value on food. And I was looking at it like something to be worshiped rather than looking at something that's used to fuel my body. And as years and years and years went by, I developed an extremely unhealthy relationship with food. And I became addicted to food. Like I'm telling you guys, you might think I'm exaggerating when I say addicted to food. It consumes my mind sometimes. Have you ever been there? Like you had something in your life that just consumes you. That drive for that immediate dopamine hit that I get from food is crazy to me. But I've had to sit back and say, okay, my willpower isn't working. It's not that I don't work hard enough or I don't hustle hard enough or I don't grind or I'm not focused. It's the environment that has shaped who I am. And in a similar way, the environment shapes you. So the thing that we have to do is begin to change the environment that we're operating in. Because unless we change that environment, things will never change. So first and foremost, look at what is the environment that caused you to be in the position that you're in right now. And if you're in a position that you don't like, understand that if you continue to operate in that environment, you'll never be able to go to where you want to go to. That's point one. The second thing is we have to purposely create this environment that we desire. And when I say purposely create, well, let me put it to you this way. There's a quote out there that says, if you live with a lame man, you will also walk with a limp. So who are the people that we're associating ourselves with? Because little do we know it, the people that we're associating ourselves with, we become like, whether we want to believe that or not. It's funny. Most of the times we won't believe something like this. I was listening to my mentor, Les Brown, this morning, and he said, everyone is self-made, but only the successful are willing to admit it. See, all mastery, growth starts with self-awareness. And that's the whole process that we're on, this process of self-awareness, self-mastery. So the ability to cultivate and create the environment that we desire, that is where it starts. And understanding, just like George Bernard Shaw said, he said, most people blame what they are in their circumstances. I don't believe in circumstances. The people that get on in this world are the people that get up and look for the circumstances they want. And if they cannot find them, create them. Now let's change that, make it a little different. The people that get on in this world are the people that get up and look for the environment that they want. And if they cannot find it, they create it. So I'm looking at some notes because this book is really revolutionary. I want you all to pick it up. And then the next point that I wanted to make is the concept of automation. See, the habits that we have in our life, they run on autopilot. They run automatically, subconsciously. Therefore, we don't even know that they're running, but they are. It's like the computer that I have right now. All I see is the screen in front of me, but there's so many programs and systems going on automatically in the background that are driving my ability to come in here and speak with you all. Similarly, all of our actions, behaviors, everything that goes on in our lives comes from our internal operating system, which goes on autopilot. See, after a while, as we continue to think certain thoughts, do certain activities, perform with certain behaviors, they run on autopilot. That's called automaticity. When you are able, or let me put it to you this way, I love Napoleon Hill, how he puts it in his book. Man, why am I blanking on his book? It's not Think and Grow Rich. It's another, I have it on that bookshelf back there. I really wish I could remember it. It's a small book. Anyways, I think it's his best work. He says a concept called cosmic habit force. And he says discipline is only needed so long until that discipline turns into a habit. See, the point is that after a while you do something continuously, it becomes part of you. See, the thing that you do becomes part of you as long as you do it with enough consistency. After a while, it just becomes part of you. That's why my addiction to food is just part of me. I don't got to think about it. I don't got to try to want food. No, that food wants, don't even get me started. I love it, but I'm changing that relationship with food. How? Changing the environment. But the point is that things will be hard in the beginning, messy in the middle, but ultimately glorious at the end. That's something that Robin Sharma said, something along those lines in the 5 a.m. club. But understanding that automaticity, the things that have come automatically throughout our experience, those are the habits that we have. So is willpower needed? Absolutely. But willpower is only going to be needed so long until it becomes a habit. And how long until it becomes a habit? Forever. Because the day that you stop working on your habits is the day that they are no longer a habit. Interesting. So I believe a lot of us, and I've definitely been there, where my life on the outside looks better than it is on the inside. I've definitely been there. And the only way to change that is our environment. There, in this book, the author talks about an experiment that was done where they put fleas in a jar. And these fleas were put in the jar and it had a lid on top of it. And then when the fleas were first put in there for the first couple of days, they tried to jump out of the jar. But every time it would jump and try to get out of the jar, what would happen? Well, obviously, they would smack up against the lid and they wouldn't be able to go anywhere. So after a while, the fleas understood that they couldn't get out of the jar no matter how high they jumped. So what'd they do? They all stopped jumping. They eventually reproduced, and guess what their quote-unquote children did? They didn't even try to jump. Now you take those same fleas, you put them into another jar that does not have a lid, or a jar that does have a lid, yet the fleas continue to jump. Guess what that flea that used to jump but no longer jumped but is now placed in a new jar where everybody's jumping, guess what they're going to start to do? They're going to start to jump. Why? Because their environment is influencing their behavior. So when we talk about this concept, it's so important. Everything around you is driving your behavior. Everyone around you is driving your behavior. So how can we begin to surround ourselves in different environments of people, different environments of thought, different environments of activity. The easiest way to become healthy, to become fit, is start hanging around fit people. The easiest way to become rich is to start hanging around rich people. Why? Because our environment dictates our social norms. If being a millionaire is a norm in one subsect of a culture or one environment, and we begin to hang out in that environment, that is going to become our norm because we rise or fall to the level of our environment. Similarly, my case, I grew up in a household where food was praised, worship, and was like the greatest thing ever. That is where we found pleasure and value, was in the food that we ate. So what happened? Well, that simply became my norm. So a lot of the times, the things that we desire in life, we have to begin to look where those things are the norm. Where is being in shape the norm? Where is being wealthy the norm? Where is being whatever that you desire the norm? And then we have to begin to get into those environments consistently and repeatedly. And when we're in those environments, we have to do a couple of things, I think. We have to visualize, number one, and we have to emotionalize. Visualize ourselves living that person. See, here's a really great question that we have to begin to ask ourselves. Who do we need to be in order to go where we want to go? And the only way that we become the person that we know we need to become is to begin to go into these environments, visualize ourselves becoming that person, but not only visualizing it, but emotionalizing it and internalizing it, feeling it, those emotions, and holding on to them. See, when you go to a new environment, when I went in a Rolls Royce for the first time, and I sat on those seats, and the salesman said, "Hey, Devin, look down at the floor mat." I said, "Okay, what is it, Mike?" He said, "You know how much one of those costs?" I said, "How much?" He said, $6,000 for one floor mat. I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, it's made of lamb's wool." Wow. I went in the back of a Rolls Royce Phantom, had the extended cab. It's crazy. The leg room, nuts. Why do I share this with you? I'm in a different environment. See, a lot of us want to produce different results, but we're not changing anything in our environment. How can you begin getting around different people? How can you begin tasting your dream, trying on the watch, going to the dealership, going to the open houses? You have to take a bite of the steak before you can eat the whole thing. That's something I heard Ed Milet say recently, and I loved it. So begin to surround yourself in different environments, in environments where what you desire is already the norm. For so long, I was a big fish in a small pond. I've really realized that you want to be the small fish in the big pond. So I hope that this served you well today. Begin looking in that environment, your physical environment, the room that you have around you, the people that you have around you. But what about the thoughts that you're thinking? That's your environment. What about the thoughts that other people around you are thinking? That's your environment. All of these things will determine your success much more than your willpower. Because guess what? You can only have so much willpower. There's something called decision fatigue. Decision fatigue says that throughout the course of the day, your ability to make decisions goes down. It's pretty much, by the end of the day, non-existent. Why? Because our brains, our minds have so much capacity. And the reason why we have automaticity, like we were talking about earlier, and habits, is to automatically do things so that it could free our mind to focus on much larger tasks, much more important tasks. But when we try to use willpower to just stick to the diet or to reach the goal, we're dwindling our capacity to actually get things done. We don't understand that, do we? Versus getting into an environment or creating your environment that will enable you to get it done with more ease. Not saying it's going to be easy, but with more ease, because it will still be hard. Willpower will still be essential. But I want you to use this for things bigger than, should I eat the cheesecake or should I not? I mean, that's something I go, should I stop at Chick-fil-A or should I not? Like, you have bigger things, you have a bigger journey that you have, like, you got to get that stuff done. You got people to serve, you got people to help. People need you. If you don't help the people that you've been called to help, people will continue to suffer. So create that environment so that you can lead people to the place that you know that they should be. And it all starts with you. You have to master yourself before you can show others how to master themselves. I think it was Buddha who once said that life is one indivisible whole. You cannot do right in one area of your life while doing bad in any other. So look at the environment. It's dictating your future. Thank you for being here today. I appreciate you all. It has really been a pleasure. And remember that the environment that you're in shapes you and will either lead you to who you want to be or to who you've always been.